We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Ring the notification bell. Share the video. Smash the like button if you want to support this college football national, college football independent rebel outpost with a donation to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Just hit that $sign where you make your comment and I'll get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. Again, if the audio goes out, let me know in the chat room. We are ordering a new dock station. I believe the one that we have is starting to fail. So we're going to order that. And hopefully we make it through another live show without too many problems. I want to thank everybody for coming on in on a Monday, February 2nd. We begin the month of February. Well, we began it Sunday. I put out a video about the North Carolina, South Carolina population surge. And that is and will have a dramatic effect on the next realignment wave. As you can see, and we'll go through a little bit of that Today, on our live show, the back end of the monologue, as the SEC embarks climb on Silo Mountain, will they reach its summit? I don't know if they will. But I believe they have started the climb. They're at the bottom of the mountain. They're not quite at the bottom. They've gone up a few degrees of altitude. When you've got President Moorhead, the University of Georgia, their president, when he's talking about it, in the words that he is choosing to use, and he's saying it in public, and it's President Moorhead. President Moorhead, it means a lot. It definitely means a lot. So we are going to go through what he has said in public, and before that, we're gonna talk about. You remember the Utah Utes attempt to bring in some private equity money, some third party money. They wanted to bet on themselves. Well, it might happen. It might be a great move, but they got some work to do, according to a Sporticle article that we're going to go through real quick. So we've got a lot of stuff going on here. Let me first do a roll call. Let me thank everybody for coming on in. Bruce Harris, Booma, Sooner, Rich Austin, Utah Utes. We're going to be talking about Utah here in a little bit. Rod is in the house. Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm afraid to become a legend. Wow, Preston from Greensboro is afraid. Kenneth Stromness, BYU Cougar. Tazbo, let's do this thing. Thanks for coming on in, Tazbo. MGC Sooner, we got another Sooner in the house. The Oklahoma Sooners are all over the place. And they're getting look, was I too hard on Oklahoma? Maybe I was. They're getting a lot of love. They're getting a lot of love from Josh Pate. They're getting a lot of love from a lot of these way too early top 25s. What did I have them at? 17? Am I being too tough? I got them 17. Is that not enough respect? Maybe I'm not giving the Sooners enough respect. Well, we got plenty of time. We've got plenty of time to get everything exactly perfect in our preseason top 25 during August camp. And before that, we're going to be doing a spotlight series on all the teams. And we'll look under the hood of the Oklahoma Sooners. Brett Venables, John Mateer is coming back. We're going to look under the hood and see maybe I am not giving them enough respect. Caleb Ramirez is in the house, Mr. Buckeye. Mr. LSU Tiger, go Tigers. Christopher Hooter is in the house. Oh my goodness. The one who rules with an iron fist, the moderator, Mireya Hernandez Garcia Flugar is in the house. And she loves this winter. And look at her avatar, look at her picture. She's got the maroon jacket on, a hat, and she's in the snow. Mireya Hernandez Flugar is in the house. Flint Dog is here. Flint Dog, Michigan, is in the house. Bob Swanger, Penn State. Ohio Bobcat, Stephen Vitt is in the house. Singing can ruin dock stations. Bad singing can ruin dock stations. And there ain't no bad singing going on in this studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. There is no bad singing going on here. In the middle of Loserville City, I would know because I am the mayor. Ain't no bad singing going on here. CFB Plus is in the house. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. MBM, the Cowboy. The Oklahoma State Cowboy, go Pokes, and he's got a skater in there. You know what? There's a little bit... I don't know where the Oklahoma State Cowboy hockey program, I don't know where it's going. But there is a little bit more credibility than when I first thought. Let's put it that way. I don't know if the guy, the band leader of this effort, I don't know if he himself has the money to be able to do it. I'm getting mixed reports back and forth. Oh, he's worth $800 million, Greg. If you're worth $800 million, are you really going to put $200 and $300 million of your own money towards this effort? I don't know. I'm willing to read more about it if anybody's got more information. Daniel Gorby is in the house. Thanks for coming on in. Mr. Seminole Wind Almighty is here. Antoine Johnson, Arizona State Sun Devil, is in the house. Rod Nix, another Seminole, is here. Joaquin Morales, thanks for coming on again, guys. John Dry is also in the house. I'm taking a page out of Steele's book. Willing Oklahoma State's hockey program into existence like willing Utah into the Big Ten. All right? That approach might work. Cal Bears is in the house. Thanks for coming on in, Golden Bear. Okay, yesterday we did a video. I know a lot of you have seen it. The Carolinas emerge as a new population boom states. Affordability, lifestyle, drive growth. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. It was from AP News, Mike Schneider. I want to show you the map here. The absolute population explosion in North Carolina, South Carolina. We talked about the student apocalypse. In the state of North Carolina, there is no SEC in Big Ten school located in the state of North Carolina. None. And that state is booming, banking jobs, tech jobs, a lot of disposable income, young families, growing families, families that are going to buy, the perfect spot for national advertisers. They love the state of North Carolina. They're beginning to love the state of South Carolina. Booming states. And of course, you look at Texas again, always booming. And Florida has gone through a big boom. And you're looking at Utah and Washington, the lighter the state, the more, if you look at this graph here. But the main part of the article, and if you missed it, go back to our last episode, episode 472, episode for everybody to watch. We go through the article, and you can see demographics, the student apocalypse, lots of reasons why the Southeastern Conference is targeting the flagship UNC Chapel Hill. And again, maybe that growth, maybe that disposable income, maybe that money, who knows? Maybe it affects more than just North Carolina. Maybe it gives a long shot of a North Carolina State, a long shot of a Duke to get into the P2. Such a booming area of the country. And of course, South Carolina. The article talks about South Carolina as well. That may affect Clemson. You know, we've talked about Clemson. University of South Carolina is a huge, University of South Carolina has way more value than the average college football fan would deem it. But that's just the way it is. the University of South Carolina. But Clemson is a huge brand, of course, within the state of South Carolina. Of course. But it's also a huge brand in the state of North Carolina. And Clemson is a huge brand in the state of Georgia. Behind the Georgia Bulldogs and the Alabama Crimson Tiger, Clemson is number 3 in that growing area. So again, North Carolina, Clemson, they're positioning themselves. We're going to find out here in the next couple of years. I believe on or before June 1st, 2027. But anyways, I just wanted to bring that up again. That was in our episode 472 yesterday. Go check that out. Go check that episode out if you missed it. Gus Malzahn has retired. The offensive coordinator, Florida State longtime head coach, UCF and Auburn. So Gus Malzahn, and I believe it's the wide receiver coach. Let me know if I'm wrong. The wide receiver coach is now going to be the offensive coordinator of Mike Norvell. A lot of people I see some comments, I've been given some comments that the relationship between Norvell and Gus Malzahn went pear-shaped. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just letting you know what people have been telling me. I wasn't the greatest fan of the Thomas Castellanos pickup in the portal. I'm definitely not the greatest fan of the Ashton Daniels pickup in the portal. So, I don't know if Mike Norvell, I understand why he's coaching another year. I understand why the Florida State Seminole fan base, of course, we all want to be optimistic about our team next year. And I understand that. We're going to give him another shot, one more year. He's done it before. I get all that, but I'm just letting you know, just my opinion, I don't have Florida State anywhere near the top 25. Are they going to be what they were 2 years ago? No. Maybe they'll be a little bit better than they were last year, possibly. But I think Mike Norvell, I think Florida State Seminole, that incredible football program with that incredible football fan base, is going to be wanting a new voice to lead the team 5 weeks into the season. That's just my prediction. Expansion Crush is in the house. Thanks for coming on in, Mr. Hoosier. Appreciate it. Daniel Gorby, I agree, Greg. One more year, Norvell. Norvell needs to wake up this year. And again, losing your offensive coordinator at this time, Gus Malzahn, and I don't know. Daniel Gorby, I believe, said yes. About the wide receiver. Does the wide receiver coach now becoming the offensive coordinator? Does he have any experience in calling plays? Tough time to lose your offensive coordinator. Christopher Mercado is in the house. Thanks for coming on in, Christopher Mercado. Appreciate it. All right, so Utah. Evan Novi Williams, February 2nd, today. Sporticle. House committee asked Utah president for briefing on private equity in college sports. The House Committee on Education and Workforce has asked the University of Utah to schedule a briefing to discuss the school's plans to take money from a New York-based private equity firm. The committee, which has jurisdiction over federal education policy, is examining the growing trend of schools seeking institutional partners to capitalize on their athletic departments The group is assessing whether legislative action might be needed to address concerns about the downstream impact of these deals. In a letter sent to the Utah president, Taylor Randall, on Monday morning, a copy which was viewed by Sportico, the committee requested that the school share information regarding the details and motives behind its potential partnership with Ortro Capital, which its trustees greenlighted in December. While recognizing the escalating costs in collegiate athletics, including revenue share obligations under the House v. NCAA settlement, NIL-related expenses, and coaching salaries, the committee seeks to better understand the university's rationale for entering into this arrangement. Committee Chair Tim Wahlberg, Republican Michigan; Burgess Owens, Republican Utah, a former NFL and University of Miami player, and the chairman of the Committee on Higher Education Workforce Development, wrote in the letter. The information and briefing requested will assist the committee in determining whether legislative action may be necessary to protect students, schools, and the integrity of college athletics. As conversations between schools and institutional funds have grown more public, so too have concerns from lawmakers. Last month, on the verge of the college football playoff title game, Reps Michael Baumgartner, Republican Washington, and Haley Stevens, Democrat Michigan, wrote a letter to the NCAA President Charlie Baker, asking him to limit the emergence of PE deals that threaten the integrity of university governance and the quality of college sports in ways that will have disastrous consequences for athletes, students, and fans. Local state-level lawmakers in both Utah and Washington have proposed bills that would also make it harder to execute these deals. The House Committee on Education and Workforce letter to Randall's request that the university share terms of the arrangement and answer 3 specific questions. What factors and considerations led the universities to pursue this partnership, and why was this approach selected over other potential financing options? What steps has the university taken to maintain institutional control and to protect student-athlete welfare, including compliance with Title IX under this partnership structure? And how might this partnership affect student costs, particularly with respect to mandatory student fees that subsidize the athletic department, and are any changes to fee structure anticipated following the implementation? The University of Utah trustees voted during the December meeting to allow Randall Athletic Department, Mark Harlan, and others to finalize a deal with Ortro, the private equity firm. While it's unclear if that final arrangement has been signed, sealed, and delivered, the structure of the deal was openly discussed. Utah is spinning the youth's athletic revenue streams into a for-profit entity and plans to sell an equity stake in that business. And finally, in the article, Randall played a prominent part in the formal 110-minute pitch to the trustees, helping explain the macro reasons why Utah is seeking the money and why Ortro Capital was the right partner. Financial specifics, however, have been sparse. The school has declined to share details on a deal that likely tops 9 figures. A Sportico open records request for any term sheet between the school and Ortro filed back in September is yet to be fulfilled following multiple university extensions. So, trying to get that deal done, trying to get it officially done. And we don't really know yet if the Utah president has signed, sealed, and delivered on that with Ortro Capital and Redbird Capital. We don't know if that's truly done yet. But if it isn't done yet, or even if it is done, is it going to be able to go through all the hurdles that is getting put up around Utah and other universities and other conferences that want to do the same thing. There's the pushback nationally, bipartisanship nationally, and in local office holders around these universities. So is Utah going to be able to flip the switch on this? Are other schools that have been looking at the same type of third-party investment, third-party expertise, are they going to be able to flip the switch on this? These public universities, maybe the private universities have more an advantage on this. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. Utah is the first one to go through all of this. Are any other schools willing to go through all of this? And is any conference going to pick this back up and try to get it done, to have a private equity firm get a little bit of a stake in the conference? We'll find out. We shall find out together. We've got a super chat. Hammer Henderson. Super chat, $5 holla. College football playoff will get to a point where regular season viewing diminishes and people just watch the playoffs. Oh boy. Well, you know, Hammer Henderson, I completely disagree with that. And that's why I love that you sent that comment in. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. But I disagree. The same thing was said about going from 4, maybe if we go to 8, there's going to be less value in the regular season. If we go to 12, all the people that were against going from 4 to 12 were basically all the college football reporters. Josh Pate, all these guys. And they were dead wrong. They were completely dead wrong. And they know they were dead wrong. And now they don't want to expand it anymore. But the truth of the matter is, more regular season games are more valuable if we increase the playoffs. Now, I do agree with everybody. There's a point of diminishing returns, but it ain't at 12, and I don't think it's at 16. I don't think 16 is enough. I really don't. I really, truly do not. It increased the expansion of the playoffs, increased the regular season. It absolutely did. More people were watching more games that had a vested interest in reaching the playoffs than ever before. Vanderbilt was in it to the end. BYU was in it to the end. A lot of these schools were in it to the end. Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama. And I've said this before. The greatest example is Iowa. Everybody keeps saying Iowa is a good example of why we should not expand the playoffs. Iowa is a great example why we should expand the playoffs. Those Iowa games at the end of the season would have been and the teams that they were playing would have been way more valuable if we had a 2014 playoff. Tennessee's games, a whole bunch of games would have had more value. Not less, more. And it doesn't strip the value away from the game, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn. It doesn't. People are still watching because of the rivalry and of the playoff situation. Iowa played Indiana. Iowa played Oregon. Iowa played them tough, and they were outside the 16. In this world, especially, forget about, okay, you know what I'm going to say. The talent has been spread out. There's more parity than ever. Of course, you got to expand the playoffs. You all know that argument. Let me add this. There's so many new players in and out of these programs. The coaches don't really know what they have. In August, they're trying to work it out. In a 12-team playoff, you've got teams losing early that are great at the end of the season, but they're not going to make the playoffs. You want to have a legit playoffs, a legit champion, increase the playoffs, not decrease the playoffs. Miami almost did not get in. Notre Dame did not get in. They should have been in. Vanderbilt should have been in. BYU should have been in. Utah should have been in. 16 is not enough. Maybe 24 is a little bit too much. I'll grant you that. But the thing about 24 is the number works beautifully. 16 is not enough. 24 mightn't be too much, but the number 24 works beautifully. And let me say this, and I'm stealing this from Rick. I'm stealing this from Rick, a legendary caller here. If you don't like the playoffs of 24, if that's oh boy, that's no good, I don't like that, then don't watch the first weekend of the 2014 playoff. Just take your wife out, take your husband out, take your kids out, go have a beer with the guys, go fishing, ice fishing. Spend that first weekend not watching college football, and then when you come back, we'll have the 16-team playoffs all ready for you. I do not think I do not see an expanded playoffs diminishing the regular season at all. I think that argument, and Helmer Henderson is speaking for a lot of people, but I think that argument just falls. Boom. Do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor. During this next season, pretend that it is a 2014 playoff. Just go ahead and pretend it. All of those games between the 22nd rated team and the 27th rated team at the end of the season, those rivalry games, all those games would matter. A team that is rated 19th, 18th, trying to get into the top 16 so they can have a first round home game in the 2014 playoffs. Those games would matter. There'd be more incentives. This college football world, the 4-team, the 8-team playoffs are completely obsolete. You're not searching for the legitimate champion. You're truly not. Miami was this close from winning the championship. You're not looking for a legitimate champion if you're only for 8. You guys are all Einsteins. All of you are PATC Einsteins. But none of you are smart enough to tell me who the true best 8 teams are or who the true best 12 teams are. In fact, none of you would be able to tell me who the true best 16 teams are. But if I go to 24, I got a really good chance of scooping up the best 16. I'm getting off my soapbox. But I don't think an expanded playoffs diminish the regular season at all. Greg trying to devalue the regular season. Well, and I was told the same thing when I wanted the playoffs to expand to 12. I was the exact same chat room, in the exact same studio. When I first started this, I wanted 12. The number 12 was perfect. I believe it was perfect. But now with NIL, the transfer portal, 12 is completely obsolete. Obsolete. 12 doesn't work. 12 does not work. It was fun. It's cool and everything, but it doesn't work as good as a bigger, larger conference. Hammer, Henderson, Super Chat. looking for true cheating means going to divisions. I'm not sure what that means. Divisions in each conferences. Looking for true cheating. Are you talking about going silo? I'm sorry, Helmer Hennison. I don't know quite what you mean by that. Let me know in the chat room. But thank you for the $2 holler. Thank you for all your support. I very much appreciate it, Helmer Hennison. And we've got a super chat from the LSU Tiger. Oh, championship. Got it. Christopher Hooter, we've had this conversation before. The 2013 kick six, arguably the greatest finish in CFB history, is a potential yawner. I don't think it's a yawner. I understand your argument, but I think it would be. I still think it's a rivalry game. It's a monster game. An incredible ending of the game, and then one team is rated a higher, and they might meet each other in the playoffs. It's a storyline going in the playoffs. I don't think so. Look, Minnesota and Wisconsin's a rivalry game, guys. And for you guys, it ain't. For us, it is up here. And it's hardly ever for to get into the Big Ten championship, to get in the playoffs. Now, in 2019, it was. In 2019, if Minnesota would have won the Axe game, Minnesota would have played in the Big Ten championship game. But we blew it. We blew it because I'm the re-elected mayor of Loserville City. But every other game, it has no playoff. And it's a huge game. It sometimes gets 4 million viewers. It's a huge game. And now you put the playoffs in it. It's still a huge game. But now maybe, just maybe, it might affect Wisconsin and Minnesota to get into a play-in game or be one of the top 4 qualifiers, or however it's set up. I just don't. We're just looking at it from two different ways. All right. Thank you for the $5 holler, Christopher Hooter. Very much appreciated. I understand your guys' argument on it. I do. All right. So let's get into the mountain climb. Again, super chats. Thank you guys. Hammer Hennison, Christopher Huda, Hammer Hennison, super chat. $5 holler. Don't follow basketball, but how many people just watch the playoffs? Good question. Now, let me ask you a question. Let me ask everybody a question. If there was not a 68-team playoff dance, and if it was 32, if it was a 16, would there be a higher viewership for the regular season? No. But the 68-team playoffs, the dance, is a huge moneymaker. It helps everybody. It helps the little programs. So I don't even think basketball is a good example. If you shrink the playoffs, the regular season viewership ain't going to... It's like the NFL. Do you want to shrink the NFL playoffs? Do you think viewership is going to go up if the playoff decrease? No, you got more and more regular season games with 3 weeks in the season, 2 weeks in the season across the country, meaning more value because the teams might get in the playoffs, or this team might knock out that team. This team might play spoiler. Thank you, though, for the $5 holler, Hammer Hennison. I very much appreciate it. Thank you, guys. And again, Super Chat, supersede the other chats. We're going to get to your phone calls here in a little bit. OBD Don. OBD Don, Super Chat. $13.12 Super Chat from OBD Don. Was just strolling down Realignment Avenue to Einstein Way and noticed some change on the corner. So I picked it up, and to help with the heat up there, thank you, Opie. I appreciate your generosity as always. I appreciate your creative writing. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful Super Chat. I appreciate it. I already... The fat guy from Minnesota already feels a little bit warmer because of a very generous Super Chat. Thank you. Thank you, OPD Don. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. Very kind of you. Very kind of Helmer Hennison, Christopher Hooter, and OPD Don. The mountain climb. As the Southeastern Conference, the SEC embarks climb on Silo Mountain. Will they reach its summit? Now, I happen to believe that the long trek upward has begun. I am not reporting that they're going to reach the summit. I'm not reporting that they're going to get 1/3 up the mountain. I'm not reporting that they're going to get halfway up the mountain. But I am reporting they've begun the long climb. The words that were chosen and who said it makes this report over the weekend a big, big, big deal. And especially what I've been hearing, the chatter behind the curtain, is why we've been talking about it. Not just based on one Ross Dellinger article. Climb to Glory, MBM. Medeath saying thank you to OBD Don. It isn't just the Dellinger article. This is from The Athletic. Athens, Georgia. The SEC should create and enforce its own rules on tampering and other regulations. Said University of Georgia President Moorhead, who added there is support among at least several other presidents in the conference. Several. How many is several? Put it in the chat. What do you think the number is several? Are we talking 3? Are we talking 4? Are we talking 5? We talking 6? I don't think we're talking 8, right? We're not talking 50% of the presidents. Put it down. Rod Nick says 6. 6 a good number for several? Georgia's President Moorhead, who added there is support to go our own way, enforce our own rules on tampering and other regulations, says there is support among at least several other presidents in the conference. Movie Time Blues is saying 9. Karan Shakar 16, that's not several. That'd be him saying all of them. Moorhead, speaking Friday after a meeting with the Georgia Athletics Board did not directly address tampering allegations by Clemson coach Dabo Swinney against SEC member Ole Miss. Moorhead expressed general frustration about what he sees as a lack of enforcement by either the NCAA or the College Sports Commission, which was created last year to enforce the House settlement. Have we seen the CSC, the College Sports Commission, move against any institutions yet? I don't think so. Have we seen the NCAA take any action on tampering? I don't think so, Moorhead said. So I think we're getting to the point that the SEC, the Southeastern Conference, is going to have to create its own set of rules. So I think we're getting to the point. They're climbing Silo Mountain, ladies and gentlemen. They've begun. Moorhead wants to get closer and closer to the summit. We're going to have to create our own set of rules, enforce them against our members, and hope that we can set an example that the other Power Four conferences would then follow. But we desperately need rules, and rules that are going to be enforced. We have rules, but they're not being enforced. Conferences have their own rules on a number of matters, but rule enforcement has typically been done by the NCAA. The House settlement finalized last June created the CSC to approve a third-party name, image, and likeness deals. Dabo Swinney's allegations against Ole Miss have returned tampering to the forefront. The NCAA CSC is investigating. But if the reverse happened, an SEC school alleging tampering by a non-SEC school, Moorhead said the conference having its own tampering rules would give it the credibility to call out those things. And I would hope that once we set the standard, then other P4 conferences would notice what we've done and decide that it's time for some order in their own conferences, even though we can't mandate that, Moorhead said. But what happens if the SEC goes it alone? Even for a little bit. What's the risk? That we're going to have a great orderly conference where we're all working together and everyone else is in chaos? Moorhead said. See, Moorhead doesn't even see it. Moorhead doesn't even see any risks in doing this. What's the risk? That the Southeastern Conference is going to be an orderly conference? We're all working together and everyone else is in chaos? Does that really put us in a bad position? I don't know. Maybe it puts us in a better position to have less chaos. Because right now we have chaos and we're still waiting for someone to enforce the House settlement and for someone to enforce the NCAA tampering rules. And finally, in the article, Moorhead is one of the Southeastern Conference longest tenured presidents. He has been serving in his position to 2013 and has been active in conference matters. He said several SEC presidents are as concerned as I am, and that athletic directors are also talking about it. And then Georgia Athletic Director Josh Brooks, standing next to Moorhead, nodded in confirmation. If enough presidents decide it's time for the Southeastern Conference to take such a step, Moorhead said it would be presented to the commissioner, Greg Sankey. And I would think he'd be able to figure those things out as he always does. So I've been a poking and a prodded on this. couple of interesting points that have been made back to me that I did not think about. One is, I kind of laughed at the idea that President Moorhead, now look, he's a long tenured president at a very important institution in the SEC. But beyond that, he has a strong voice in the room, especially when it comes to everything. But realignment, we've talked about Moorhead before. All right? Moorhead is one of the reasons why UNC and Virginia have been at the top of the SEC target list. One of the reasons. But he is a big reason. So this guy, okay. But I kind of laughed at the fact that he said, and I mentioned this to somebody in the industry. I said, Moorhead sounded like the Big Ten back during COVID. Moorhead said basically in this article with The Athletic, if we do this, if we enforce our own rules, if we make our own rules, we enforce our own rules. I'm paraphrasing, but I just read through the article. Moorhead saying, I believe that there may be a chance that other conferences would follow, that they would be less chaotic, that they would do their own thing, that they would follow the rules that we would set. And Moorhead doesn't see any risk in the SEC going alone. And I kind of laughed at that. I said to somebody, that sounds like Kevin Warren. That sounds like the Big Ten saying, you know what, we're not gonna have a football season. We're gonna make in 2020. We're gonna make these decisions. We're gonna go out in front of all the other conferences. We're gonna make our decisions before the final whatever science came back to them, whatever. That's what Moorhead sounded like to me. No risk in going alone. I don't see the risks. And we believe the others will act. They will follow our lead on this. So I asked somebody, I said, doesn't that kind of sounds kind of, I don't know. Doesn't sound right to me. I was told that Moorhead is saying that because the Southeastern Conference would hold a huge, huge leverage in doing this. And that is, if they did this silo, if they made their own rules, if they enforced their own rules, they would also threaten or do competition only Southeastern Conference. That they would wipe out the non-conference games as far as the eye can see in football and play their own 12-game schedule amongst themselves. And that would cost a lot of viewership, a lot of eyeballs to the other conferences. That they hold this leverage. So when Moorhead says, if we do this, we would expect other people to follow, that would be like if other people would create their own rules and enforce their own rules, but the rules are going to be looking like our rules, similar to our rules, that then maybe we would not have to do this last thing of competition only in the SEC, that we would not have to go to that length. So that is very, so that was very interesting to hear that. Like, okay, so the Southeastern Conference believes they have a lot of leverage in doing this. And in talking with Chatter Behind the Curtain, there does seem, and this is why I've got it. This is why I've got the SEC starting to climb Silo Mountain. Some of y'all may be thinking, Greg, no, come on. Yeah, they might have written an outline to do this. They might be having meetings about it, but they're not really going to. They haven't really started yet. I think they have. It's a long climb. I don't know if they're going to get halfway up the mountain before they turn around. I don't know if they're going to get to the summit when it goes going their own way. But I believe they have started it. I don't think you can get to several presidents being for this unless you have started the climb. I don't think you can get some athletic directors on board unless you have started the climb. I don't think that is. And when you have the University of Georgia's president, Moorhead, you have started the climb. If he's willing to talk about it in public, you have started the climb. When you have indicated an end game where you say at the end here, let me see if I can find it. If enough presidents decide it's time for the SEC to take such a step, Moorhead said it would be presented to the commissioner, Greg Sankey. And I would think he'd be able to figure those things out, as he always does, Moorhead says. And of course, the commissioner works at the pleasure of the university president. So if we get enough presidents, we're going to present something to Greg Sankey. And then Greg Sankey's really going to use the leverage and talk to the other commissioners and say, well, we're ready to go. It doesn't sound like they're ready to go yet. I don't think they're halfway up the mountain yet. But the start of the climb, it has started. And when you got Moorhead backing it, that says a lot. That's a big step towards, again, we're looking at governance issues. And maybe, just maybe, it's not just about governance issues. Right? Maybe it's more than about governance. Maybe it's more about enforcement. Remember, the Southeastern Conference, along with the Big Ten, were threatening to go their own way unless they had the power to create their own college football playoff format. The SEC and the Big Ten were threatening to go their own way unless they were able to get 29% each of the playoff distribution, playoff money distribution going forward from 2026 and beyond. They've already threatened this before. And it had nothing to do with governance outside of the governance of the college football playoffs. The SEC and the Big Ten got exactly what they wanted. They got everything they wanted. They had the power. They got the money in this deal. And yet, it still ain't enough. And now they're threatening to break away because of governance issues where nobody's enforcing the rules. There is nobody stopping from... I don't want to go down that road. I caught myself. So this is all more serious than I believe most people are taking it. Remember, when the Big Ten and the SEC threatened all of this before, they held meetings together. Those two conferences held meetings together, according to Yahoo Sports' Ross Dellinger, which included Pete Pavakwa. And he was not an official athletic director at the time. I think he was just named the one that was going to become. But it doesn't matter. Notre Dame was in those meetings. Big 12 wasn't. ACC wasn't. The G5 conferences wasn't. So they've already had meetings. They've already threatened. And now the Southeastern Conference is threatening to go silo. And I'm not saying most of it's not about the governance issue, but there are other reasons why the Southeastern Conference believes they should maybe go alone. I'll get to your comments and then we'll get to your phone calls here in a little bit. Jay Chapman, I imagine the silos will have very similar but not identical rules. If we go to that future, I would agree. You know, I'm thinking to myself, if they go in their silos, if the SEC and the Big Ten go into their own silos, they're probably still talking with each other, right? They don't want a bid against themselves, right? They don't want one conference to have too strict of rules and the other to have too loose of rules, depending on the subject. Stephen Vitt, I would not miss the Southeastern Conference. This G6 fan is not afraid to say it. MBM, if the Southeastern Conference goes alone, so be it. Self-righteous little turds. Chris Kinney, there will be 48 to 56 teams in one silo. This SEC and the Big Ten trying to navigate legal antitrust laws that are in their way or they would have already broken away. I don't think I appreciate the comment. I don't think a 48 to 56 team silo, I don't think that solves anything. You would have the problem of having 56 teams not trusting each other, and you would not be protected from antitrust violations because you would probably be determined to have market power. What the Southeastern Conference is arguing, and others, is saying that the Southeastern Conference, a conference of 16 schools or 18 schools or 20 schools, would be a very powerful, wealthy conference, but they would not have market power. They would not have monopoly. They would not have over 50% of the market. They would not have market power. And therefore, they would believe that they would be able to constitute their own rules, enforce them, and have some legitimacy in the courts. A 48 to 56 team silo conference, Super League, whatever you want to call it, I think defeats the purpose of going into a silo, from the beginning. That's just my take on it. MBM says the SEC rules won't be the same as the Big Ten rules. The Longhorns among those wanting change. Maria Hernandez Flugar, thanks for everyone for your support. I do appreciate it. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on in. Again, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and ring that notification bell. Random factoid. To climb to the summit of Kilimanjaro, the guides bring you up over 6 days, and then the hike down is done in 1 day. Isn't governance the same as enforcement? Almost the same. Yeah. I think when they're talking about governance, they're talking a lot about enforcement. Absolutely true. Rod Nix, Greg, history with the Southeastern Conference has shown us that drama is always in the cards. This is not an idle threat. I don't think it's an idle threat. I don't think it's an idle threat at all. I think you are correct. Okay, let's open up the phone lines here. Opening up the phone lines. Again, if you want to become a member of our channel, go to the description box below the video, hit the link and become a member. The phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. I'll tell you one more thing about President Moorhead. Now, we talked about how relationships matter. Relationships matter. President Moorhead of Georgia, and I've said this before, was not all that thrilled with what Clemson and Florida State did when it came to trying to get out of the gore of the ACC. He was one president that was not thrilled with it. And he's a very important voice. Now, maybe time does heal wounds, a lot of wounds. So we'll see about President Moorhead. I think that can be overcome. Good news for Florida State when it comes to the current University of Madison, Wisconsin chancellor. She's leaving. She's going to Harvard. That's very good news for Florida State when it comes to realignment. They were never going to get Wisconsin's vote. Never, ever, ever, ever. Now she's leaving. So that might help Florida State out in a few years from now. We shall see. Moorhead was not happy. No. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. And I'm going to go quickly over, a lot of people have kept their head on a swivel during this live show and have sent me
from
Patron. Thanks for calling. The floor is yours.
Hey, thanks, Greg. So Greg, regarding like the silos and like the different rules and stuff,
yeah,
I kind of think it's a good thing because, everybody has like different values and different priorities and how they want to, make their leagues and what they believe about college sports. Mm-hmm. And like some examples that I was kind of thinking about are, if you look at the SEC, like they're in all these eligibility battles, like with Diego Pavia and Trinidad Chambliss, these lawsuits. So let's say, for example, the SEC says, all right, this is going to be our internal rules. Like you get this much JUCO eligibility, you get this much Division II, whatever. Yep. Like everybody, we're going to have these standardized eligibility criteria. Whereas maybe you look at the Big Ten and they're like, well, we don't want to, we want JUCO to count against or discourage the JUCO players or something like that. You can envision the SEC and the Big Ten and even the other leagues, tweaking and fine tuning different rules for eligibility or things like, I don't know if this is all possible, but like, let's say, for example, these contracts, you've spoken about like contract templates, like the Big Ten has like a contract template. So sort of standardizing the contracts within your conference where like, I think the NFL, they have something like a pay scale, right? Where like the rookie players can get paid up to this much, et cetera, like that. So maybe let's say the SEC says, okay, we want to implement that where if you're a freshman, the max you can get is this, red shirt, you can get this, like all the way up to 50 or 60 or whatever. And maybe the Big Ten says, no, we believe that freshmen should be paid equally to seniors if they're good enough. Like maybe a Jeremiah Smith should get paid equally to a senior. So everybody will kind of be able to come up with their own rules based on their own values and philosophy and like how they want to kind of optimize the competition within their league. And that way, you have like kind of like three separate leagues where you don't run afoul of all the, antitrust stuff. And I think it's actually something that would work out better and create a little bit of variety. These three conferences, they're already in like significant silos. I feel, Greg, like, they're in like different parts of the country. They just like feel different. And, I think also for the viewers that they're already competing in the same time slot. So I don't think it would affect viewership that much anyway, because the viewers are already kind of forced to silo in since, SEC games are being played at the same time as Big Ten games, which are played at the same time as the Big 12 games, et cetera. So I kind of think it's just sort of more of the same. I actually don't think it's that radical. I think it's sort of a good natural step for the evolution of the sport.
You take on a pretty interesting perspective. I mean, the founding fathers described our states as the I don't know how they said it, the experimental labs of democracy. You know, states would do their own thing, have their own state laws, and then you find out what works, what doesn't, and maybe the conferences, maybe like I say, maybe one conference does a CBA, somebody does a pay scale like you do, and see if it's threatened by the courts. It could be but Patron, I'm just going to throw this question out.
Uh-huh.
If the conferences become, if they go their silos, and they're going to have different rules and different ways of doing things, does it ultimately push these conferences going into their own competition-only games against each other during the regular season, or potentially their own playoffs? What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely think they will. There's no way that they can play if they have different sets of rules. Nobody would agree to that. So I mean, that's, we can discuss what the impact would be with viewership and all that. Like I said, they're already kind of competing for viewership in the regular season anyways. Like, you can only watch so many games at once, right? I think, Greg, if you look at how much money something like the SEC championship makes.
Yes.
Well, what if you have like a SEC playoff? That's going to make them a lot of money, wouldn't it? If they do like a 4-team playoff or 8-team playoff in an expanded league, and in this case, you don't have to share that money with anybody else.
I'm sure they discussed that. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure they've analyzed it, and they got the spreadsheets, et cetera. Now, what I was thinking is, since everybody's, the SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, ACC, if they exist, everybody would have their playoffs. They're all having to compete, unfortunately, against the NFL for viewership. It gets kind of crowded, but and I think they're all three of them. Greg, this is what I was thinking, is all three of them, let's say, for example, you have Texas Tech or BYU in the Big 12, and they go undefeated. So the Big 12 is going to say, well, see, Texas Tech is the national champion.
Yeah.
Well, then let's say you have the Big 10. They're going to say, well, wait a minute. We've expanded. We're a national league. We're on all the regions. Therefore, the Big 10 champion is de facto the national champion because we're a national league. And then, of course, in the SEC, they're going to say, hey, guys, it just means more. Obviously, the SEC champion is the best.
But, none of us really, none of us want that, though. We want, you know what I'm saying? It's I don't want 3 national champions. It's,
I agree, but if we look at the history of college football, it's kind of been the norm to have split national champion, and then it gives the media people more stuff to debate about. I guess they sure seem to love that. So even in the playoff era, UCF claimed the championship in 2017. The BCS was designed to eliminate this problem, and even now Auburn claiming a championship in 2004. That's just. Even now, some people claim, you'll hear some fans, Notre Dame fans will say, well, we were actually the national champions this year. We should have won. People always, that their claim. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. The disintegration of that, national playoff, it will hurt, the audience or the viewership in some ways, especially with them competing into the playoff. But I think their rationale, the SEC would say, well, hey, at least we get to keep our slice of the pie. Big Ten will sort of keep their slice of the pie, which are going to be 2 really big slices. And then, the Big 12 or, if it's a Big 12 ACC, merger or best of the rest, whatever, they'll keep the remainder and sort of be happy to, be around. That's just kind of my thought,
Yeah.
But thanks for letting me call, Greg.
Interesting perspective.
Thank you.
We might be seeing that. So, all right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Great call, Patron. Great call. I do want to say that was a fantastic call. I want to give out the prayers to Samantha Guthrie, NBC anchor woman. Her mother was abducted. 84-year-old mother was abducted in her house, and police are investigating it. So I'm hoping and praying that her mother gets to come home and be with her family. It's what a horrific story that is. So prayers out to Samantha Guthrie or loved ones, and hopefully the mother is reunited. The police they've come out and said before we came on live here that they believe she was abducted, taken out of her home. So prayers out to that. Prayers to the police, the detectives, the men and women who in blue who are given the task to find her and bring her home.
From
Tristan 5.
Tristan 5, the floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, thanks for taking my call. Hey, listen, great topic, I think. I agree that it's not an idle threat. They're not just kicking around ideas. There's probably some behind-the-scenes momentum trying to push it in this direction where the SEC is going to go it alone. But I want to ask this question, Greg. Wasn't there a Supreme Court decision that was rendered, one of the myriad decisions rendered against the NCAA? And in this particular decision, I think it was Justice Kavanaugh who said that it's an antitrust violation for the NCAA to enforce rules across the board, but that it would probably be acceptable if these rules were enforced at the conference level. Do you recall something along those lines?
Yes, and I've talked about it numerous of times, and I don't know. And I talked to I don't know if it's as cut and dry as that, but Kavanaugh and people who are a whole lot smarter than I am, when they listened to the arguments, and that was the Alston case, came to the same conclusion that Kavanaugh, and it wasn't just him, that others were saying the NCAA in our eyes doesn't have any legitimacy to make the rules, enforce the rules, but the conferences do. They've been around for a long time. The universities are an association in the conference. The student athletes coming in these schools know that the conference that they're in, and blah, blah. He said a whole bunch of things about it, and so did a couple other Supreme Court justices, and it sure sounded like the conferences would gain more, they would have more legitimacy. And the Southeastern Conference seems to believe that it would protect them from antitrust violations if their own conferences would make the rules, enforce the rules, and have the student athletes agree to these rules by signing on to become a student athlete of a Southeastern Conference team, athletic department. So, yes, it was the Alston case. But go ahead, sir.
Okay, so my thought is perhaps that the SEC and the Big Ten can't agree on governance, not because they don't want to or incapable of coming to some agreement. Greg, it's possible that they're afraid to because of an antitrust violation if they were to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is this. If you take the SEC's market share, whatever that is,
yeah,
the Big Ten, if it's well over 50%, let's say that the two
yeah.
combined are 60 or 65%. Greg, if they come together and set forward a set of rules that they agree upon,
yeah,
they could lose lawsuits over that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So part of me is wondering if perhaps the SEC is biting the bullet and going in this direction, and that maybe the Big Ten will follow. And I don't know if they would or not, Greg. I honestly don't know. But if that were to happen and so much chaos comes from it and so much loss of interest, that it would kind of force Congress to take it up. right? I mean,
Yeah.
to say, hey, look, this sport is it's going to die if you don't do something, right? Because now you have conferences not even playing each other,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's the real motive behind all of this.
Yeah. That's another very interesting perspective. Go silo, because that's the only way we do it. That's the only way we can have any protections, making our own rules, enforcing our own rules. But then when people see how we go silo and the effect on that, that's not going to be good either. And that might force some codification of, getting some antitrust protection from Congress.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I'll tell you something else, Greg. I'm going to add this thought too. I think we all understand. I mean, I would fully expect there to be a major hit to the ratings for the SEC if they did this. And I think there's a good chance that the other conferences will feel it too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the entities that would put an end to this would be the networks.
Yeah.
I think the networks would come to the table and say, look, we're paying you X amount of dollars. You need to get your butt in gear and start playing these other conferences again, because we're losing money now.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. That might be the entity that stops the SEC from reaching the summit in the first place.
Right.
ESPN might step in and say, no, don't climb that last rock. We don't want this.
Yep. Yeah, so I feel like it's something that can happen, Greg. I think you're right that it's not like a fake story, that there's probably something really going on there.
Mm-hmm.
But if it ever comes to fruition, it cannot last more than one. And I would say at the absolute max, maybe 2 seasons. I think it would just be devastating to the sport, honestly. And we're talking like, you could see viewership drop across the board like 50% if that were to happen.
Yeah.
Possibly. Like, I'm not predicting that, but I'm just saying, like, that's a conceivable outcome. And then I think that would prompt a lot of people. The networks would, go berserk over that, and then everyone would go to Congress and say, hey, you got to help us fix this. And maybe that's the whole idea. I don't know, but I feel like something like that has to happen. So
you might be on something, or you're on to something, sir.
All right. Well, Greg, you keep up the good work, and I'll talk to you later.
You got it, buddy. Thank you, Tristan 5. Beautiful call.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Some great calls, man. Patron, Tristan 5, some great calls. Jacobra Cat, Super Chat. Boom. SEC president says no risk with isolation. Appalachian gene pool in a town populated with cousins objects. Jacobra Cat objects. All healthy organizations need new blood. You are correct. I just happen to think that the Southeastern Conference, if they climb that silo mountain, if they reach the summit, right before they reach the summit, they're probably going to bring in new blood. They're probably going to bring in new blood, like North Carolina blood, possibly Virginia blood, possibly Clemson and Seminole blood. Thank you, Jacobra Cat. I appreciate the $5 holler, but I love your very, very creative super chats. Thank you so very much. I do understand what you're saying, and I agree. I absolutely agree. We've got another very generous super chat from Heartbreak 25. Heartbreak 25. 24 won't work if there's a P2 breakaway. Might work under the current landscape. Teams feeling left out is very important to me, making the regular season valuable. Indiana made it to the top 12. Don't need 24. Don't need 24. Heartbreak 25. Thank you for the $10 holler. Very much appreciated, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for your incredible generosity, Heartbreak 25. Once again, in Jacobra Cat.
Call from
Ta-Town Hawk.
Ta-Town Hawk. Holy smokes, Ray. Rock Chalk Jayhawk is in the house. The floor is yours.
How's it going, Greg? I just finished scraping ice off the driveway. So
Woo!
I'm good and worked up.
Yeah, better you than me, pal. Better you than me. If I had to scrape ice off the driveway, you would have to come over and scrape me off the driveway, and that's not an easy task. Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Well, first of all, it was 15 degrees day before yesterday. I think it's a low, or maybe low 20s.
Yikes.
And it was 68 degrees this afternoon here in Dallas.
68.
Yeah,
Holy
I rocking a t-shirt and shorts.
Wow.
And sweating.
Well,
Not
I
bad for
feel a
February.
little jealous. Tell you that.
Well, I wanted to piggyback off your previous caller just a little bit. He brought something up very interesting about ESPN. Made me think some of the other news I saw earlier this week. You saw who just bought a piece of ESPN just the other day. I believe 10% of them, didn't they? That would be the NFL.
Yeah. Yep.
So, in a sense, I think they might have a little something to say about it. If they look at any of the moves that are about to happen, and they anticipate a hurt in the popularity of the sport via eyeballs or something else, I thought about. Right now, they have a robust system in place for talent acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that splitting everything up might dilute it a little bit, I don't know. I was just something I thought to think about.
Yeah.
With my tinfoil hat.
I think no. You're right. I mean, these media partners and other media partners, potential media partners that want to jump into the college football, they want to add college football to their portfolio, right?
Yes.
They might block or hesitate or say no. They might scream to say no. Don't be going in your silos. Don't be going in your silos, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's the number 2 popular sport, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So it's the number 2 product right now.
Yes.
If you don't want to do anything to dilute a very, very popular product. I was thinking about that earlier today. When has a sport ever become more popular to mainstream viewers by shrinking it?
It doesn't. It doesn't. NASCAR is a great example of that. No, you're correct.
So I don't see where the master plan could be in long-term thinking. You know, let's go our own way, and yeah, we're going to get all the pie, but I don't see them paying out the similar contract, even if they play themselves 15 times, just from the fact that, you know, it's likely to draw less viewers. I know somebody in Colorado isn't probably going to choose one of the 16 teams in the SEC to follow every week. But in the system that we have now, if they watch their Buffaloes at 10 p.m., what else are they going to do on Saturday? They're going to watch, 3 or 4 other games, right?
Yeah.
That's the way the system's set up right now.
I mean, I know I'm gonna watch everybody. I mean, some people in the chat room, they've already confessed that they're already in their silos. I mean, there's been a handful of Big 12 people throughout the season that said, I don't even watch Big 10. Greg, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even watch the Big 10. So people are in their silos. SEC people, Big 10 people, Big 12 people. I just happen to I'm not in any silo. I'm watching everything. I love everything. But I get.
Well, we're football junkies, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah,
what
Yeah.
what we are. We're the sickos.
Yeah, we're the sickles. Yep. So, it's a great question. I keep thinking if you go in their own silos, you're going to hurt the sport because you're going to shrink it. But I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a weird way of thinking about. It's almost like we're going back in a time when we were in our own silos because, quite honestly, people did not want to travel the country to play. To play each other. It's why we created the Western Conference in 1896. Minnesota, Northwestern, Purdue. The 6-team conference. It's why the conference was created all over the place. These small little geographical locations because people didn't want. There weren't planes going on at that time, and nobody wanted to go on the train for that long a time, and so maybe we're going back, not to that extent. But we're going back to our own silos. College football is a very unique sport in our country.
Yeah, when it really become popular as a national pastime, about the same time radio broadcasts started. I'd say that's when it became more of a national thing because you could reach more people. Similar to what we do now. I mean, radio was something back then you could go 300, 400 miles, and now you can go, coast to coast, which is fantastic. But there was one other thing I heard you say about the article with the president of the SEC institution.
Yeah.
You said something in there. I heard a line about Sankey serving at the pleasure. Was that a quote from him?
No, that was me.
Okay. I was just wondering because I always think about they put things out into the ethos, via print and they're sending messages. I was just reading a little too much into that.
No, that was my bad. I should have sometimes I throw my own editorial in there, but basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is if President Moorhead's got most of the presidents or all the presidents to agree to this, or at least to start this, and they present it to Greg Sankey, Sankey's going to have to try to make it work, right? Or at least he's got to use leverage against the other conferences so he doesn't have to do this because he serves at the pleasure of the university presidents, right? So that's the point I was trying to make.
No, you're absolutely right. And what's the anticipated length of the career of a conference commissioner is not very long these days, especially if you're in the Big Ten or the Pac-12.
Yeah.
But no, I wasn't referring to the current Big Ten commissioner, just the previous one.
Yeah.
Who failed upwards to Chicago.
Yeah, they all should get picked on.
Well, that's part of the problem, right? Everybody who's in a decision-making position, it's just like corporate America. You're all focused on a very, very short-term outcome because your career path and or employment package is based on short-term gains. So they have no incentive whatsoever, and I think that's an attitude that's probably changed over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
As far as being caretakers of the sport per se, everybody's out for their own thing, and they're out for their own pockets.
Yeah, so, I don't think we're going to get another 25-year commissioner run like Jim Delaney. I don't think we're going to get another one of those anytime soon.
No.
Yeah. All righty, sir. Beautiful phone call, my man.
Appreciate it, man.
You All got right. it.
See you, Greg.
Got it. The phone calls have been elite once again here at Peek Around the Corner. Absolutely elite. Great phone call by everybody. We've got a super chat from Mr. Colorado Buffalo. FF18 Buffs. By the way, Buffalo, you do a great job when you're with Nathan. I enjoy listening to you and Nathan go back and forth. Excellent job. So thank you for that. Nathan and FF18 Buffs. Super Chat, thank you for the $5 holler. Greg, your thoughts on the Southwest U.S. Super Scoop by the SEC with Colorado, BYU, Arizona State, and Kansas. The 12th, 17th, 28th, 33rd markets. Just to start out, the only school of those that I've ever heard of the Southeastern Conference having any particular potential interest is Kansas. I haven't heard the other ones. That doesn't mean that there isn't interest in the other ones. Because, we're definitely not all knowing here at Peek Around the Corner. But I've had conversations about Kansas SEC potential if they get to 20 or if they ever go past 20. The idea of the Southeastern Conference moving on to a Southwest pod, there are probably people who have brought it up to Sankey, that brought it up to the presidents. There's probably outside money out there saying, it would do the conference good if you got out of that one region, even though that one region is the most valuable region in the country when it comes to college sports, and it's not even close. The Big Ten had to go nationwide to even compete with it. The Big 12 had to go conference-wide to get more value for the conference. The Pac-12 did not go conference-wide, and it went all belly up, at least the Power 5 version of it. The ACC struggling because they did not go to the central part of the country or to go to the west part of the country until they had to, in desperation, to backfill. So, all that being said, it might be the right thing to do. I haven't heard anybody talk about it. And it seems like the Southeastern Conference, if I had to put my chips in the middle of the table, I would say the Southeastern Conference would not have, if I was a betting man, which I am, I would say they would not do this in the next 20, 30 years. But there is some economic argument to make for the Southeastern Conference to do that. Especially if the Southeastern Conference would ever go to an unequal revenue share, like the Big Ten has been talking about and will continue to talk about. Schools would come in at a lower level. Now, Colorado, BYU, Arizona State, and Kansas people might say, we're not coming in no way, we're not we're not lower tier citizens, whatever. But you might want to come in at a lower level because it's still more profitable, more value for the university to come in at a lower level in the Southeastern Conference than staying at the top level of the Big 12 in the years ahead. So that's a possibility. I just don't think the Southeastern Conference is going to have interest in doing that. I really don't. Just my take. I don't think they're ever going to have an interest in doing that. However, those four schools, and you can throw in Utah, if there's a best of the rest, you are going to have to include those markets. You're going to have to include BYU. You're going to have to include at least one Arizona school. You're probably going to have to include both Kansas, Colorado, and Utah for the best of the rest. Because of the markets. And the Big 12, when the Big 12, if nobody gets poached from the Big 12, from the Big 10 or the SEC, and we have an ACC that gets poached, depending on who gets poached, depending on how many teams, The Big 12, I think the Big 12, the next thing they're going to have to look at is grab a big market. Even if the school does not have the fan intensity of that market, but they have to grab a bigger market. That's why Brett Yormark was looking at UConn, because he wanted that market, wanted that New York media market. Still does, by the way, but the Big 12 presidents aren't budging. The Big 12 needs to have the correct blend in their next expansion. If everybody sticks together, if they go from 16 to 18 or 16 to 20, that blend that they bring in somewhere along the line has to have a big market in it. Like a Georgia Tech in Atlanta, somewhere down, and who knows, possibly bring in Tampa, USF, along with UCF. Another big market, because the 12, 17, 28, and 33, that looks good. But I'm thinking the Big 12 is going to want to include another big market. Thank you for the $5 holler, 18 buffs. I don't see it happening. Any news on the Big 12 Redbird deal? Not that I know of. And I think we're probably going to hear about something pretty soon, though. The last time I poked and prodded on that was in mid-January, and I got absolutely nothing on it. So I haven't been talking much about it. We would join tomorrow at a lower level. Yes, I think you would. And I think you'd come out way ahead, of course. And that might be how the SEC does the next expansion. And then again, it's about who is willing to take. Like Colorado was the first one, as we had them in the center of the stage when it comes to the Big 12 versus Pac-12 situation, because we knew that Colorado was the one that was the most motivated to jump. And they were the tip of the spear in the poaching attempt of Brett Yormark. Who is the tip of the spear for the Big Ten when it comes to ACC country? Who is the one most motivated to leave? And if they had to come in at a lesser amount, to pay off the ACC and then plus come in at a lesser amount than the other Big Ten schools, who's the most motivated to do that? Same with the SEC. Thank you for the $5 holler. I do appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe, ring the notification bell, smash the like button, and share the video. I want to thank you all for joining us today. I very much appreciate it. I think we're going to have a very interesting week. This was Monday, February 2nd. Are we going to hear about the Big 12 deal that Stormy Cyclone just asked about? Are we going to hear more about that, more about the silo of the SEC? Sometime this week, we are going to go through the PATC ranking of the Big 12 projected starting quarterbacks for 2026. I got it all done. I've broken down the tape. Of all projected 16 quarterbacks of the Big 12. We're going to do the Big 12 first, then the SEC, the ACC, and then the Big 10. But this week is going to be the projected Big 12 starters. So a lot of you are going to yell at me, say, Greg, you got it all wrong again. Greg, you're going to be Greg the Cooler once again. I don't think so. So buckle up, brace for impact. We got an exciting week of college football up ahead. Again, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe now. Ring that notification bell. Keep your head on a swivel. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much. And as always, God, family,